Hi guys, I believe we can start now. Okay, let me show you my screen first. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes,
Yeah,
can.
can.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So I believe today's topic is mainly on the custom widgets development, right, for Sitefinity. So actually we need to download this VSIX, this extension for the Visual Studio first. So you just search for Sitefinity Visual Studio extension, right? And then you have two versions, this one and this one. So basically, it has one for Visual Studio 15, 17, and 19, another one for 2022. So you have to install this one first. So after that, in your Visual Studio, on your project, right, you can just right click, add, and then this new Sitefinity section, this one will appear. So we are going to create a widget, right? So just select widget, and then we need to name it. So you name it something, but for the template name, right, you have to leave it as default. Currently, there's only one template type. So you click OK, and then reload all. So basically, right, the widget, right, is just a MVC widget. So it has MVC files, MVC structure. So after we added from the wizard, right, you've got your controller pre-made here, and then you've got your model here, and then your view, right? So after this, you have to build your project. And then refresh the CMS. So you guys already have experience with ASP.NET FVC, right?
Yeah.
Mm. I believe uh, Shaya might have might already know how to create some custom widgets because for the collection widget, right? But for the other participants, right? For the other guys, do you guys have like any experience creating .NET user controls and MVCs and things like that?
Not really.
Oh,
Just
okay,
know the
okay.
basics.
We knew at the ASP.NET.
Oh, okay. So even MVC is new for you guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Johnny, maybe
mm.
our friend Rifu and Dipa has experience create widget, but is not from MVC. Backend from
Using
backend.
backend Sitefinity.
Yeah, backend
Mm-mm.
Sitefinity. But
That's
this
correct.
is for this section we want to ask, what different when we create on the Visual Studio and
Backend and
then
the Visual Studio.
from backend. What different thing?
Oh, okay.
You create.
So for the user widgets, right? You can also see it from here. So let's see. So all the widgets, right? It is, yeah. So here, right, this sections, okay. So corresponds to these sections, right? So you got custom widgets. So this is our custom widgets, right?
We
Hmm.
create from menu administration apa mesti Pak biasanya administration perlu
Model
update.
builder.
Module builder we using create from administration and then module builder we debug create from that menu and me create from Visual Studio. So we want to ask what different thing pros and cons something like that. Between we create widget from backend and create widget from Visual Studio.
Okay, then maybe as the other two guys, right? They also don't know how to create the widgets. Then maybe I will start by creating a sample widgets and then some of the fields, right? And then you guys can check it out. So maybe you guys know some of it, or maybe you guys will learn like one or two new things as well, right? Okay. So let
Okay,
me
okay.
show you the process, right? So just now we created this widget, right?
Demo. Yeah.
So far we don't do anything. We just right click and add, right? And then it creates everything automatically. So let's see what it does. So it has one field, right? And then you save it, and then it shows here. So on the front end, we've got this, right? So here, right, the concept of MVC is like you've got your controller, like model and view, right? So the view is your HTML view here. So let's say we can add anything here. Right, it will reflect here as well. So the controller is more like what needs to return to the view and what happens. I mean, it's something like the all the backend processing, the backend processing logics, we store it in the controller. So we communicate controller and view using models. So this is just a property string. So we pass this model, right? This is demo model, this class. It has this property, right? So we pass this model into the view from the controller, right? So we use this property to show it here. I believe it will becomes more clearer after we added a few more items. Okay, so this is for the very simple text box field, right? So what if we want to add more fields? So there are many different types of fields. All right, so let me add something first. Okay, so let's see this one first. All right, and then build. So basically, this is one way of adding fields, right? Adding custom predefined fields into the Sitefinity custom widgets. So you can create many different types of fields in the widget designer. So this is called like widget properties that the customers, right, the front end, the CMS users, they can easily modify from the backend. So oh, okay. Okay. So we have this new field, right? So this is the default one. So this field created by, we only added one property in the controller of the widget, right? And then Sitefinity automatically creates as this field. So how do we access the value and show it on the front end, right? So in the model, right, we created a Boolean field like right, and then here we assign the selected value into the model property. So here we can just use it like this. Okay, let's see. So it's showing here, right? Sometimes the CMS is like that. It bug out and loads, takes some time to load. Okay. So let's see here. So we have yes, and then it changed to true. If we selected false, right? So the very basic idea is that for each field here, right, we have corresponding property in the controller. Something like this, right? And then there are a lot of different types of fields that we can render using different types of property on the backend controller, right? So let me show you another one. So this is checkbox. We're going to also have a lot of like different customization checkbox. Okay, this is. So the main idea is you've got all the properties here, right, on your controller. And then in order to show them and use them on the front end, you have to create property in your model as well. So after that, you show the property of the model on the front end view. So let's say we have date field. Right, and then we need to assign that value this. Oh, what we have to. So these attributes, right? These property attributes, we use them for different extra type of functionalities. So we can use display name. So this display name displays as a field label, right, in the backend. So groups, so you can group different checkboxes, things like that. And you can also specify the default values here. So in the data type, you can also define the data type, like, is it a checkbox, right? Something like that. So this method, it controls everything from the controller and using method attributes instead of a traditional HTML, right? Instead of traditional HTML fields. And that one is also an option that we can use for many complex scenario. So for example, right, for other complex scenarios, right, we have something like this, like label, like HTML inputs. But this one uses some of the Angular JS framework, right? So this is a little bit more complex. So maybe we can explore this one later on. So first, we are going to check this simple method first, right? So this one, right? All right. So here, right, you've got different types of fields. You can even define the values here, right? And then from this date field, you can select date times and things like that. So let's say 413, like 418 today, and then you select this one. So here is yours. Yeah. So do you guys have any questions so far? Let me know.
Not yet for now.
Okay. Then maybe we'll explore more field types, right? So these
Yeah.
are very simple, like text box, check box, things like that, right? Date fields. So this is please enter valid number, things like that, right? So the display property here, right? The display property here is showing here, right? This Boolean field, things like that. We can also add some of the placeholder as well. So let's say, hmm, so you got the placeholder, things like that. Okay, so let's continue on to this one. So for this link model, right, this one you can link to any existing Sitefinity CMS objects like pages, your custom own dynamic data types, or the built-in data types like news, events, and things like that. Okay, let's see this one first. So here, right? So currently you can select anything from the pages, and then you can choose from news, right? Events, things like that. You can even choose images, but the way you choose images here, right, is not very user friendly, right? So maybe we'll also explore an image selection widget later on. So for this one, mainly used for content. So let's say, right, we select this one, like this one. So nothing happens, right? Because we don't have anything links in the model and view, right? We only created our backend field here. So here, right, you will notice that we can only select one, right? That one we can change it as well. So let's change this one first. So you can also refer to this one to check all the fields here, all the fields that I mentioned. Okay. So for this one, oh yeah, this widget, I believe you can get only one items. You can select multiple items with the other with the other new type of widgets. Okay, we'll get to it later on. So for this one, right, in order to get the value of the selected items, right, you can just call this here. So let's say we select anything, right? And then it will show you the URL of the selected item. So if we select any news, like the custom news here, so it will show you a link of the news details page. Yeah. So this one is useful when you want to link to any type of content, right? And then we also have the other type. Okay, this one is called mixed content context. So the type of the property, right? They are different and they define how the HTML field, what HTML field is rendered in the backend. So for link models, you got datetime fields, ints, boolean, things like that. So for this one, right, mixed content context is a little bit more complex. You can get news pages, things like that as well. So let's say we tried with news. So for this news, you have to okay, so this is how you get the items, right? From the CMS into your controller and then into your model. So let me create. Right, so what it does is, right, for all the news items, right, in the news property. So this news property, right, it will have all the items that you selected from the backend. So there can be more than one items. So we have to loop through it, and then we can grab the values from the selected items, and then we can construct our own strings or any of the properties that we want. So what we did here is like we get the title and the URL of the news items here. So here, right, you've got more items, properties that you can use. Like you can use all the properties, author and things like that. Or the expiration date, like URLs. It has a lot of properties, all the properties of the default Sitefinity objects. So let's see here. So here, right, this field is this one, right? And then you can select more than one. All right, so let's say we select 3. Oh, we have to show it here as well. Okay. So we can see everything here. Okay. All right. So it's showing like this, right? You got your title, like URL, everything. So all these items, right? Let's say you've got select show all items. You can manually select and deselect, something like this. So let's say we have 4 items here. It will show all the 4 items. right? We can even show more properties if we want to. Yeah, right? So let's say maybe author and so for this one, right? Do you guys have any questions? It's a little bit more complex than a simple field, because simple field we don't have anything, just fields, and mostly it's a string. So this one, right, it returns different types of objects. So do you guys have any questions?
Not yet. Maybe Mas Dipa or Faza have
Yeah.
any question?
So do you guys follow so far? I like have anything
I have
to
a
ask?
question.
Yeah, sure.
So, how we customize the display uh of the view in the Visual Studio? Because in
Oh,
the backend we have like widget templates, right? To customize the list display and the details display.
I see. So you want to customize something like this, right? So this is the one that Yaya created. It's a little bit more complex than the basic stuff that I show you. Something like this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This one is a bit complex one. It also has some JavaScript files, and you got your own CS, HTML, and things like that. Okay. So
Or maybe or you can maybe show the simplest one first
yeah.
before before.
Correct.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
for most of the very simple requirements, client requirements, right? Like if you want any like an image fields or list fields, things like that. And then if you want like any, so for this method, right, it covers a lot of very basic stuff, right? And even some complex one. Because here, right, you can have all the dynamic content you can select and things like that, right? But for this one, you cannot like completely modify it, but you can modify it a little bit. Let me show you. So let's say we have, so we can even create some of the sections here as well, right? So we have a lot of space here, right? And it looks a little bit messy. So maybe we can so we can put all these inside a section. Because for most of the widgets, right, it's just mainly like some of the users want to select some of the images, right? And then for the image titles and things like that, right? For the gallery or maybe for the carousel and things like that. And then they want to show them maybe like the news listing, right? They want to select what news to show and things like that. So for example, right, if we see it here, right? Okay, yeah. So maybe later on I'll show you more complex one. then we can create using this kind of method, right? Without using the widget designer first. And then after that, we'll go to the widget designer section. So here, right, you can create your own section, name your section and things like that as well. And some of the more complex one, you can even put it in the advanced category. So for example, message, like we put it in the advanced one. Okay. Okay. Then we will let's continue on to an image selector. This one is quite cool as well. Okay. So we got the fields and then let's see. So for example, right? So for example, we've got these 3 cards, right? So each card is only an image, title, and description, right? So maybe later on, I'll show you how we can implement something like this. So here, right, you can select all the images in the library. We've got all the images here. And then you can show them here. Right. So this is, I believe it's a bug from the Sitefinity. So you cannot see all the images here, right? But if you go back and then goes in again, you can see the images. So these are simple CMS fields. So let's say a little bit more complex one, right? I will show you guys a little bit more complex one. So let's say we have more than one fields, right? Okay. Let's create a class first, right? So here we got. So let's say we have person, right? It's called name, age, like address, things like that, right? And then we want to let the user to fill out all the forms for all the fields from the backend CMS, right? So we can create something like this. So basically, it's a list item, right? List of the type person that we already defined. So for this one, we just assign like this. Okay, let's go to so in the model, right, you can add a complex types here instead of just string or boolean. So we add like that, and then here, right, we can do something like this. So we can just loop through in the property, and then we show all the content, right? Mm. Okay, maybe I'll show you guys how to debug the Sitefinity app as well. Okay, so let's see, right? Do you guys use IIS to host the local site, right? Or just run it from here? Because for me, right, I use IIS to host the site as the local site, right? And then you can attach the process,
I think yeah,
right?
I think we are using run from Visual Studio. ES
Oh, okay.
Express.
I believe that one is that one might be a little bit slower because you have to click run every single time, and then it runs on IS Express, I think. So this one is another method that you can use. Also host on IS, and then you can just attach the process, right? And then when you run it, it goes into your code. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, should be fine. So here, right? So the fields are something like this. So because we have 3 fields, which are strings, integer and strings, right? So it's showing like this. So for example, for this one, right? Currently we are using the normal content widget, right? To show, okay, let me see. So we are using the normal content block, right? So we just drag and drop the content block, and then you can click edit. So this is one way of doing it. And then another way is you can also create your own custom widgets, right? And then when you click edit, so here we can have like maybe an image here, and then the title, description, something like that, right? So for example, and then we can add more. Mm. Okay, let me check why it's not showing. So for this section, right, I will add you guys here. Okay, so from here, right? So this widget designer, right? This section, right? You guys can later on, right? Go and see on how to create. Oh yeah, for these items, right? We can create by using these fields. So here, right, you can see there are a lot of different types. It has, so these are auto-generated fields, right? Like I show you, you got checkbox and things like that, the date, so link models, and then mixed content type. So here, right, you can link to all the different types of content here as well. You can see. So everything here, and then you got complex objects, right? This is the one we are testing out. So if you got string, integer, like string, integer, things like that, the complex objects, right? And then you can also have lists, list of the complex objects, things like that, that we are trying it out now, right? So after that, we can customize them. So which means that we can add like default value or display names, things like that, right? Description, like placeholder, things like that. right? We can even set it to a table view, something like these, and color field, things like that as well, right? So these you can apply to the controller here, right? Right. So for the type of widgets, right? These type of widgets, we can have two image field, right? And then a text field, right? So these are complex objects. So we have one field, right? And it has an object which has another two field, one image, one text, right? So it will be something like this. So you got image, and then text, right? And then you can use it like this. Okay, let me show you. Mhm. Oh, okay, I see. So we need to assign let's see. So let's continue on this one. So you even can add the fee validations, like it has to be an email address or max length or min length or range, right? Regular expression, things like that. Required URL. And even you can just show or hide all the fields, right? So if you want to show or hide this field according to the value of the other fields, you can also do that as well. So sections and views, right? These are the sections and views that I mentioned earlier. So, right, so you got all the data, all the values from the backend. So for regular widgets, right, we will only use a few of the fields we are seeing here because this is our training purposes. So I use all the available fields, everything here. So it looks very cramped up and not very user friendly. But in the real widgets, right, we are only going to use like maybe 2 or 3 fields, something like that. So here, right, this is complex items. So you got another view called advanced settings. So you can even separate the fields, right? So this is normal views. This is advanced view, things like that. You can even separate things like that. So I believe this is for not very complex and simple widgets, right? This is a lot better than the separate widget designer view. And Sitefinity also recommend we use this for simple and even a lot more complex ones, like you've got different complex fields and things like that, right? So the difference is, when are we going to use the widget designer? One, the answer is when we have our own JavaScript functionalities and JavaScript logics and things like that as well. So for example here, right, we have different tabs and also our own custom logics here as well. So if even for this one, right, I believe we can also use the fields that I mentioned earlier. But if we want to add another fields and things like that, right? So let's say we want to show another list, right? So let's say you have, when you click this list and then you want to show another list, and if you click this list, you want to show another list, right? Then we have to use our own JavaScript and things like that to control all the show height and things like that. Then we have to use our own custom widget designer view. But for simple things like these, right, I believe the custom out of the box fields, right? All these kind of fields and all the kinds of complex objects, right? I think they are sufficient for most of the user requirements. So for this section, right, do you guys have any questions?
No, I think for this one.
Okay. So this one, I mean, it's quite straightforward, right? And you can also have reference here that all the available things like you can do with this one. But for the designers, right, it's a little bit more complex because you have to create your own designer view with the correct naming. So it has like designer view dot your widget name dot CSHTML, right? And then you have your own JavaScript as well. So for here, right, this is mainly AngularJS. So you have AngularJS controller and things like that. And this is also AngularJS fields. So I believe in order to use and customize these very well, right, you might need a little bit of AngularJS foundation as well to use this kind of like customized, very customized designer HTML and JavaScripts and things like that. So here you've got all the so for this one, right, you can explore here. Let me show you. So these are client components like this list selector, right? Event selector, like selected items, things like that, right? You have to use it here. Let me show you. So here, right, this is new selector, right? So you have to use these in the CS HTML, right? If you want to single select, multiple select, right? So this one, right, is the same as this one, like this one. It's the same thing. When it render in the backend, right, you can select the news, something like this, right? It's functionality wise, it's the same thing. It allows you to select all the news items here. But the main difference is here, right? You cannot control the exact HTML or all the JavaScript functionality of this item, right? Of this control, correct? So you can just render it using the predefined type, and then it renders for you. The CMS render is for you here, right? And then you can just use it as is. But for the designer view, right, you can further modify it using all the JavaScript functionalities, all the AngularJS, right? So that's the main difference. So I would advise to use, I mean, for most of the simple and most of the user requirements, right? I believe this one should be fine. This one, you can also do a lot of complex things, like you can even add, right? A lot of different objects, right? And then nested objects inside the one property as well. And then you can get all the items and then show it on the front end as well, things like that, right? But if you really like want to modify and very complex JavaScript functionalities, then you can also use this as well. And you can reference this one. So for these items, right? I think right now it's more than 1 hour and 15. So maybe we can finish up this section, today's section here. So my question is, do you guys want any training on this widget designer section as well?
Yes, sir. That will be lovely.
Okay. So it will be something like these. Okay, then maybe I will prepare some of the fields, right? Like new selector, like content selector, image selector, then how you can using these, right? Okay, sure. So maybe next section, then I'll show you guys how to use the custom widget designer, the designer view. So maybe this is for the next section. So for this section, right? Let me know if you guys have any questions.
Not yet.
Okay. Then maybe we can finish up today's section here. Okay. Okay, then thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Yani.
Thanks, Arni.
Thank you, Sarni.
Thank you.
Thanks.